across, and some of you will have been too, lots and lots of groups who've been talking about, how the subject of menopause, perimenopause, postmenopause isn't discussed, that people, that it's kind of hushed and put out of the way and under the carpet, and particularly in the workplace, I imagine, and in other places. But I want to say that's what we're doing here. That's what we're talking about. And we're not just talking about the sort of physical aspects of menopause, or the sort of what we go through in the sort of the hormonally and other ways. We're also talking about the major changes that go on in women's lives at this stage. And that's why we bring on the guests that we do. So I really would love for people to start talking about the Wise and Ageless Goddess group, the Tuesday Night Club, and whatever else, because it is absolutely right on. We have wonderful women here. It's forward focused, it's empowering, it's got lots of enlightenment, it's got avenues of adventure for people to follow, and we've got some incredible guests with a huge wealth of knowledge. All of those are archived, or as many as we have managed to get onto the Wise and Ageless Goddess YouTube channel. So please come and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Please and join us live if you possibly can, and also share the word amongst your groups and clubs and other things as well. You guys are the founding members, and that's always going to be the way. It's always going to be a free membership program, because we're here not just supporting each other, but really just plugging in to some positivity and uplifting, welcoming sort of program of people, or an energy that keeps us going throughout the week. Always come back to me if anybody has an idea, or something they want to hear more about, or someone they think I should know about, or somebody they feel everybody would benefit from hearing from. Please come back, because that's what this group is all about. So please subscribe to the YouTube channel and also share the message. So having said all of that, thank you very much. I can't wait to get to you, because a couple of things. I introduced you, Virginia, as from Sicily. And of course, you're from the beautiful Sardinia.
Yes, that's okay. They're easily confused. That's fine.
I've seen some programs on TV, interestingly, because we're all about the sort of wooey elements here as well. Sardinia seems to be a very interesting place with lots of a very ancient culture and some magnificent sacred sites.
Yes, indeed. Yes.
You get back there often?
I tried to go for the summer, obviously, to get the bit of sunshine. But yes, I'll try 3 times a year if I can.
Look, listen.
Yeah.
Well, that in itself, I know you're all about health and wellness and well-being and nutrition and nurturing and growing. We're all really looking forward to what you have to say about that. But I think getting Sardinian sunshine 3 times a year has got to be a real sort of super juice for you.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself? I know many of the members already know you, but what would be lovely is if you just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, so hi everyone. Hello everyone. Good evening. And thank you, Trina, for asking me to join you on the Tuesday Night Club. So what I would like to say is I'm Virginia from Sardinia. I always introduce myself like that. And everybody just has a smile afterwards. But it's true. So Sardinia is, I'm in Ireland 17 years now. So I suppose I'm half Irish and half Italian at this stage. So I moved when I was quite young. I was only just over 18 on my own completely. And I started doing au pair work. And I suppose I just moved to learn English and, just for a change. But then I stayed here. I love Ireland so much. So I stayed here. And my now husband then followed me shortly after I moved. So he's Italian, he's Sardinian as well. So so I suppose my passion for food and health and well-being came from my family. They were a family of growers, growing their own food and eating really well and home cooked food, because at the time, even with, when there was not enough money and everything was cooked from scratch. So everything was to the local farmer, it was really, really tasty and fresh food. There was very little convenience food. So I think that I suppose passed on the passion to me. I suppose my mom and my family, that's how I got my passion for healthy, homegrown food, I suppose. So that's a little history of how I got into the growing then, because I suppose that evolved as we moved to Ireland. We started growing our own food. We didn't have a lot of space, so we moved with the houses. They got bigger one by one, and then in the end, we bought a house with some land. And then now we have 4 polytunnels, and we've decided to start a business and to grow chemical-free vegetables. So the passion from just eating healthy and homegrown food, tasty food, came into a business reality. So that's what we're doing now. I suppose that's the other side. And obviously it's connected with nutrition, and that's what I do. So I'm the nutritional therapy myself. I graduated in 2014 in Ireland, and I've done a 3.5-year diploma course. So my course is quite advanced, and it would be a degree level course. So I would have a lot of clinical experience, but I'm all about down to earth, and I'm all about really getting practical with the healthy foods and cooking. That's all to me. There's not any supplements that can replace that. You still have to go back from basics and cook from scratch and use food as medicine. I always say
Love it. Love that. Love that you say that. We have a chef attached to the group, Trisha Hennessy, many of you know here, and she always says that food is medicine, and I love to hear you saying that too, particularly when, as you quite rightly say, so many supplements, and you could be, your head would spin thinking about it, and I'm sure we do need them. There's no, but it's lovely to hear you say that we actually have the power to grow our own food. And how much more exciting is it then if you feed yourself with that, or your family, or your friends and loved ones? Thank you. Okay, so you've got 2 practices at the moment, haven't you? One in your own, one at your...
Yeah, well, the main office is in Portlaoise. I work for Active Body Clinic in Portlaoise, which is a quite well-known practice, and I work with a very skilled osteopath. I don't know if anybody's familiar with osteopathy, but it's really actually beneficial for women for hormonal health. And then I just have a new practice in Dublin in Kimmage for Roche's. I've recently added another clinic, and Zoom, of course. I've been working with clients worldwide from Australia, Italy, Portugal, Spain, everywhere. So yes, that's my clinic based, I suppose. So how I have a bit of a history myself. I had my own health challenges, which I think I would like to discuss, because they brought me to even be more passionate about health and nutrition. So in 2016, I was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma, which is a cancer of your lymphatics, so your lymphatic system. It's an immune system, basically cancer, for anybody that doesn't know, during my first pregnancy. So nearly towards the end of the pregnancy. So that obviously was traumatic. It was my first baby, going through my first pregnancy. I was completely healthy, no symptoms really. So it was quite shocking. So that actually made me realize many things in life, I suppose, many things. What's really important, what's not important, and what you should really focus on. But what really helped me on my journey was food and nutrition, because my body was really healthy prior to starting chemotherapy. So I started chemotherapy a week after my C-section. So it was very, very quick. But because my body was really healthy and strong, I was able to really, really, no, I wouldn't say fly it, because chemotherapy is chemotherapy, but I was really able to get going to the 6 months of chemo, and my white blood cells never dropped below the I suppose the critical range. So I was really, I suppose, I really embraced the 6 months, and I lived a normal life as well. I didn't want any peatiness or, I just want a normal life, because yes, it is cancer, but at the end of the day, if you continuously cry on yourself, you're never going to be able to fight it off. So I just wanted to live a normal life. And obviously I had a new baby, which was very distracting in a good way. So yeah, that was my experience. So I realized how much more food, how important food was during treatment, and even after, for my recovery. So, and at the time, I only had started practicing because obviously I graduated in 2014. So that was only 2 years of practice. And then I had to stop because obviously I just said, no, I just have to look after my baby and myself because I need to recover afterwards. So at the time I was working in a health store, which I have a lot of experience to work in the health and wellness industry. And I just gave up. I said, no, I just need time for me and time for my baby and my body to recover. And then I got pregnant with my second child within not even 2 years after the end of the chemo.
Wonderful. So, and that actually, that proves that you had been taking really good care of your body. You were well enough to be able to conceive again, and that I find it amazing. You said, sorry, just if you don't mind me jumping in, you said that you were already sort of physically reasonably healthy when you began your treatment. Was that because you were already working within the health, food and wellness industry at that stage?
Yes, but also because I've always been quite healthy and lymphoma is not a cancer. It's a very tricky cancer in terms of the causes, and thankfully mine was very treatable. It's one of the best, I suppose it has one of the best prognosis of all the types of lymphomas, but it's a type of cancer that it's, genetically predisposed to develop it, but I was healthy. Thankfully, I was healthy and my body was strong enough to fight to fight off the side effects of chemo.
Wonderful. So how long then did it take? Sorry, how long did it take you to go through that whole sort of time, and what began to help you with your recovery or to move out of that? Because you're a new mom, you've got 2 little babies, you've recovered from not only cancer but treatment, and then the next steps. What were the next steps?
So the 6 months of chemo then, and then I escaped radiotherapy, thankfully, because I responded very well to treatment, and the oncologist was just happy to leave me off the radio, which is something, I'm lucky in a way, because radiotherapy would have, obviously lymphoma can spread from your neck, and it spread to my thymus gland, which is just here. So if you get radiotherapy, you're more risk of breast cancer then. So I'm really happy I didn't have to do radio. So after that, I suppose, after this, yes, it was the recovery. So my body was tired, obviously, at the end of the 6 months. It was just very tiring. And it was all about exercise, because I was swimming. I just went back swimming, and I found swimming really helpful because it's low impact exercise, and you really work the whole body, but it's I find it very energetic, for the body. So swimming, loads of walking with the buggy to the park, where I used to live. But food, I suppose, during chemo, I couldn't eat a lot because the digestive system gets affected. So I was eating a lot of soups, bone broth, kefir, which is the fermented yogurt, and gentle food, I suppose. And then during the recovery, then it was all about getting back those protein for healing. So protein would have been one of the main nutrients I would have implemented. So plenty of protein for healing, because obviously your system is quite raw when you finish chemo. Everything is raw, and your immune system just got a sudden hit with all the drugs. So you need a little bit of, I don't want to say detoxifying, but you need a little bit of cleansing from the system, gentle cleansing. But yeah, so it's just the tiredness, I suppose. It was the main thing. It was the tiredness that really stayed with me for a while. But I recovered pretty fast, and within 6 months, I was able to be fully back to myself. And then, yeah, so there was a question there, I think, that just came.
It was from Trina. Trina's, so how did you know you had cancer? And that you are very inspirational, I know.
Thank you. How did I know? So there was a lump that came on my neck, sudden lump, that wasn't painful and didn't move. So normally lymph nodes, when we're sick or when we had a viral infection, it's okay to get the swollen lymph nodes. It means that your immune system is responding. When you get these nodes that don't move, they're hard, and they don't shrink, that's when you know there's something going on. And that's what I had. It didn't shrink, it didn't move, and it was hard lump. So that's how I knew, and obviously got it checked. And then it was biopsy and it was lymphoma. So I'm lucky that it didn't spread to other lymph nodes, because obviously we have the major lymph nodes in the groin area. That's one of the major areas of lymph nodes. Obviously here in the chest, most people think it's actually in the chest. Down the thymus is the biggest drainage pathway of the lymph nodes, and all here. It's upper here as well. So thankfully it didn't go down, because it was obviously caught on time. But yes, that's how it developed. So I've always been very passionate about hormonal health. So kind of, I want to link in on how I got into, I suppose, specialized and really do and put in all my work into hormonal health. So I love hormonal health and gut health. They're my two favorites, and certainly the one I would see the most on my clients. I myself have a metabolic condition, which is called lipedema, which is different from lymphedema. Lipedema is swelling of the fat cells. So I have it on my legs and a little bit on my arms. So I become really interested in hormonal health, because I said, okay, what's happening hormonally? What are estrogen doing? What is progesterone? And then I got really passionate about starting, I was saying to you, Trina, to actually teach young women as the day one, when they get their period, what's happening and what is normal, what is not normal. And it's not normal to be on a contraceptive pill for the rest of their life until they're ready to give birth, because that can have an impact on menopause. It's such a female hormones are very delicate, and they're very susceptible to any changes, life changes, physical changes. But I like to start there, because I think if you teach them there, you actually have them on the right path for when then they're going towards perimenopause and menopause. Because the way you approach perimenopause and menopause will shape your hormones. That I like the word shape, because it's all the work that you have done in the past that will give you the hormones during menopause. So it's really important for me to follow those young girls then into adulthood. And then obviously I do see perimenopause and menopause. What I do see a lot, and then let's talk about the differences. So perimenopause and menopause then.
Because
sorry,
no, I'll get back to it, Trina, thank you, in a second. I just want to go back to something. You were saying that it is vital. I mean, I think this is something that we should be shouting from the rooftops, that if we educate the young girls about how to take care of that delicate balance as best they can. This stage, and I'm talking about ladies, this stage, because we're at this sort of perimenopause, menopause, postmenopause stage. This stage is more manageable. We have greater benefits as a result of that care. This
correct, yeah,
got to be spoken about. I really think so, because that's not something most people think. It's the luck of the draw.
No, it's not, because some women, I see this a lot, because I see all age groups, and then I realize how much more it is important when I see the perimenopausal women, and I go back to their history, because I always take my history. I work 30 years, 40 years, and from birth to their, and I see so much damage that was done to their hormones. In terms of, they were heavy periods, clotty, painful, and then they were just put on a contraceptive pill or the coil for the rest, or until they got pregnant. And then they were never really dealt for what really was going on. What was actually happening in their younger, why their estrogen were so high, and what could have been done at that time. Now, there is genetic, of course. Genetically, some women are more predisposed to carry more estrogen and produce more estrogen, but that doesn't mean that you can't do anything to counteract or balance that. So teaching these women, then I see a lot of young girls with no periods, completely no periods, and due to excessive exercise and that's another area I'm really passionate about, is young girls that overtrain in sport, in athletics, and they lose their periods. That is detrimental for their hormonal health, because you're not getting the monthly cycle and their monthly bleed. We need a bleed. Women need to bleed every month. Otherwise, why we were designed to bleed every month to also flush out our toxins through a menstrual cycle. It's the cleansing. So so this work will lead me then, if I see perimenopause and menopause, I'll go back to their history, and there's so much strong evidence and all the links I make that I know, okay, this woman was never looked after properly. She had high estrogen. She struggled with high estrogen all her life. And now, of course, she's going to perimenopause and is struggling in perimenopause. So it's so important to look after that part of the cycling women to have a much better outcome in perimenopause and menopause. So why? I tell you why now. It's easier than to explain. So during so when the young girl, I suppose, starts their cycle, obviously you have the age of 11, which is a little bit too early. And then the young girl are developing estrogen too early. And then around 13 is usually a normal age for a girl to start her period. Then you look through the pattern, and then you'll see, okay, how are these estrogen doing? So is there too much estrogen? Then you have the acne. Acne is actually testosterone. Too much testosterone. Then there's a couple of things that can happen, but one of the things that it's probably worth mentioning is the young girls don't really have a great diet, because they would live on carbohydrates, on sugar, alcohol. Alcohol is the worst enemy for perimenopause, because alcohol raises estrogen. It's not good for perimenopause, because it raises the bad, well, I don't like to call bad and good, but it raises the more inflammatory estrogen. So alcohol is it's really not recommended for perimenopause at all. Yeah, because what happens then? So when we're cycling, obviously we're relying on the ovaries to produce estrogen, obviously for conception and, because we're fertile. But once we reach the perimenopause, the ovaries start to slow down a bit and say, okay, well, now I'm reaching the age where I don't really need to produce as much. But what produces estrogen is also your adrenal glands and your fat tissue. So adipose tissue can still release estrogen. So women have all these sources of estrogen. Think about a cycling women, all these estrogen, and that's easy to reach their estrogen levels so quickly, because if they've been exposed to plastic, for example, which is a source of estrogen, exposed to chemicals, pesticides, alcohol, imagine all the exposure, and then their body's already making estrogen through the ovaries, adrenal glands, and the fat tissue, if they have enough fat tissue, if they're not underweight. So imagine that really high estrogen output in those years. If they're not really well looked after, if diet is not great and the metabolism of these estrogen is not looked after, they can accumulate and cause toxicity. And that's when other issues can arise.
Absolutely.
Then in perimenopause, what I see then is really high. So in perimenopause, what happens? So perimenopause, most women think we drop our estrogen, but we don't. We actually have a really high, we have the drops, the roller coaster. So we have really high estrogen and really low estrogen. So it's the fluctuation in perimenopause, but we actually have really high estrogen. Some women can really feel the high estrogen during perimenopause, and then they drop. So we have these high and really low, and that's when women can feel the anxiety, the change. Mood is a big one, changes in sleep. But and then obviously towards the end of perimenopause, so menopause has two phases. The first phase is the high estrogen, when women really experience the uncomfortable. Not all women, if the other phases before that were looked after, but they would experience this. So they would have the anxiety, the change in mood, the change in cycle, really heavy bleeds, and then nothing for the next month. So completely scattered periods. but more painful. Some women say, my periods are very painful and clotty. That's estrogen. And then as closer to menopause, that's the drop. So you come into that 2 years where you really see the periods come in every 3 months, every 6 months, and then the estrogen gradually, the idea is to have them gradually drop. And then you want that drop to happen as smooth as possible. Mm-hmm. And then after that, the ovaries don't produce any more estrogen. So postmenopausal is your adrenal glands and your fat tissue, your adipose tissue, that you're relying on them to make enough estrogen. So when I see a lot of, because I think I mentioned to you about perimenopause, a lot of women are very stressed. It's a very stressful time, career-wise, kids, maybe they're grown up. 40 and 50 can be very stressful, 10 years for women.
It can even be 20 years, Virginia, because you're going right through that age of, as you're grown children who may still need your attention. And very often women at that age also are beginning to take care of perhaps their frail elders or their parents or elders in the family. And it's quite a frantic time. You're spreading yourself very thin, I think, for a lot of people.
Yes, correct. So that is the problem, because stress hormone cortisol will then make estrogen go haywire even more. So cortisol comes into place and will disrupt everything. But because it's a very tight line, because it's a very stressful time, you're really trying to balance those adrenal glands and balance the stress response. So that's why for perimenopause, it's not recommended to do any high intensity exercise to boost cortisol, because all you're trying to do is calming cortisol down. So yoga, Pilates, all those gentle exercise, rather than, that's why for women it's so important to understand what's happening in their body in perimenopause. So it's all about calming those hormones. It's not saying not to exercise, but don't do high intensity cardio, and focus on their muscle and their bone mass as well, because obviously we need, when estrogen starts to decline, the bone mass will also start to decline. So it's really important to do strength exercise from a younger age, I suppose. So lift heavier weights, but looking after the adrenal glands. The poor adrenal glands that have to take care of all these cortisol, continuous cortisol output to balance the stress that is going on in perimenopause.
Okay, so and other things, I think, because self-care is a big part of this as well, and oftentimes people don't think of that as important. They see that as an indulgence. But the kinds of things I'm talking about is some of the women even here are aromatherapists, acupuncture therapists. They practice meditation. They so they're involved in the kind of massage or beautiful calming practices, healing practices, a number of them also, that would benefit so many at that time.
Yes, I love reflexology and acupuncture. Now, thank you for mentioning it.
Yeah.
They're beautiful ways. So what we're looking at is to regulate the vagus nerve. That's why I mentioned briefly osteopathy. But the vagus nerve is the biggest nerve that runs at the back of your neck, and the innervation go through all the organs of your body, everywhere. So if you look at the vagus nerve, it's the biggest nerve we have at the back of the neck, but that is, the innervation are everywhere. I suppose reflexology would work on parts of the vagus as well, and acupuncture, there's some level of working on the vagus nerve, because by activating the vagus nerve, we're reducing the stress. Well, we are switching the body from the stress mode, which is the sympathetic, to the parasympathetic, which is the calming. So that's what we need. That's what hormones love, because when there is less cortisol, obviously circulating, then our hormones will be much well balanced, because there's not that feedback loop with the cortisol. So the vagus nerve is so important. There's other ways of activating the vagus nerve. So singing, humming. So that's why yoga has some practices of, the humming. Tapping can be a great one. So any stimulation. But what I have to say, and I like to mention this all the time, if women are up there with stress, those things will not work. You need physical treatment to bring you down first and then do all the other management techniques yourself. But they just are not going to be enough when you're really stressed and you're really nearly at the top. So I like to.
Is that a visit to your GP and discussion about this stress? And do you believe, are you saying that people need to be medicated, or is there some other way of doing that?
No, I'm talking about osteopathy. So, for example, with the vagus nerve. So, if a woman is really stressed and is really, really high level, to bring her down and yes, flotation tank. Yes, that's another one. Yeah, absolutely. Anything that would help to bring down the stress response, basically. The vagus nerve. So bring down the sympathetic, the parasympathetic to the parasympathetic. So that will help to calm the nervous system. And the best way, I suppose, there's loads of ways, but it has to be, I find manual treatments in osteopathy is what really works, because I've worked with so many perimenopausal and menopausal women, and osteopathy did wonders for them, just to bring them back, and then they can continue to keep that level with their own techniques. Okay. Yoga is amazing as well as a self tool for bringing down the nervous system. Amazing. There's so many techniques. But basically, yes. So if a woman then keeps going like that in perimenopause, will end up being struggling in menopause as well, because our hormones there during perimenopause were never settled, or they were never balanced, and then she'll end up going to menopause. And sometimes I see some side effects, or I suppose symptoms, in postmenopause 10 years after. You can still have symptoms 10 years after you've started menopause. Yeah,
I know of one of my own grandmothers actually was still getting hot flushes in her 80s. So there's, I know that this is quite a while ago, but very sorry, there's a number of questions coming in, so I just want to say something very quickly. We're going to come straight to those when Virginia's just gone through this, so that we understand that, because they're fabulous questions and really interesting for everybody to hear what you have to say. Thank you, and keep the questions coming in. Thank you very much.
Sorry, were you asking some? Yeah.
So sorry. Never mind what I said there. You continue as you are, because it's.
Yeah. So bringing down the stress response is so important during. I just like to say it's really important to look after the pre-stages before we even think about menopause. It's like, I suppose it's like thinking about a pension. It's the same thing that we say, oh, sure, pension is something, it's too far away, I'll deal when it comes to it. But no, you have to think about your pension now, like when you're young, because you're building, it's the same with your health. You're building the healthy building blocks for your later life, because that's menopause.
Looking at it. Thank you. I love that analogy. Yes. Go ahead. So that's what we're doing when we're taking care of ourselves.
Yes. So what I do see a lot, I see a lot of symptoms 10 years after menopause. So I'll see still the hot flashes 10 years after, and the anxiety. The anxiety seems to be the one that is the most prevalent symptoms that is affecting, indeed, perimenopause and menopausal women. Possibly again because they're not applying all the self-care tools and all the relaxation. Meditation is a great one as well, and we just don't talk about it enough. But meditation can hugely help. But anxiety, it's a big one. And sometimes women, will ask, do I need medication? And then we'll come to the HRT, I suppose, because that's the biggest question of, now, some women will just simply do not want to go there. And that is absolutely fine. Every woman should have a choice. The same with the contraceptive pill. And it just drives me really mad when I hear, but sure, I was never told to come off them. But you are the person in charge. You need to ask these questions. What is it going to affect me in the long term? And then it does have consequences in the long run, because a contraceptive pill or a coil will have synthetic hormones. It's not your own hormones. So contraceptive pill will block your own. So it suppresses your progesterone. Women that take contraceptive pill don't ovulate 90% of the time. You need progesterone to ovulate every month. And then they end up in perimenopause. I've actually talked briefly about this on a radio interview, when they end up in perimenopause, they realize they have no progesterone. Progesterone is really important for perimenopause and indeed menopause, because most of the HRT treatments have progesterone in them. So the combined treatments, because a woman, as long as there is a uterus, a woman should take progesterone combined with HRT, not just estrogen, but progesterone helps with sleep. It has like a sedating effect. So it helps with calming and sleeping. If you think about the anxiety and all the stress, if you're missing progesterone, you're missing that calming effect.
Oh, that's interesting.
So, and a lot of women in perimenopause are progesterone deficient because of the overuse of contraceptive pill, other birth controls, synthetic hormones, stress levels. There's so many factors, and diet obviously would have influenced that. And also, I would like to say, women don't think about this as much, but if you were constipated all your life, that is a problem, because, or you struggle with your bowels, because that's the only way that estrogen are eliminated. So if your body makes, it's really important to say it's the metabolism of these estrogen that at the end of the day counts. It's not the amount of it, it's the metabolite. So what are they doing in the body? So are they going to the bad route? Are they going to the okay route? What are they doing? And that's why sometimes I use the urine test to see what's happening. I would use that for post-breast cancer women, but I would use it in perimenopause too, to see what's happening with this estrogen and where do I need to go exactly, because I need to know exactly where I need to help them. But yes, so you'll see a lot of progesterone, very low progesterone perimenopause.
Can we find, is there a way in which we can increase our progesterone?
That's a tricky question, because progesterone only comes, no, because progesterone is the only thing naturally you can't, there's no food that has progesterone. I think there was a myth or misconception that, you could get progesterone from food. Now, the richest source is wild yam. So there was a supplement years ago when I worked in the health store, but it's not available anymore, but was wild yam, YAM. But that's where natural progesterone in HRT is made of. So that's what HRT, the modern HRT, is made of. So progesterone is not just the pregnancy hormone. I just like to stress that out. Progesterone is not just for pregnancy. We need progesterone for many other things. And progesterone protects the bones as well. It's not just estrogen. So the roles of progesterone are many. So so many women would benefit sometimes with the combined HRT. That's what I was talking about, HRT. HRT is a personal choice. We know that. And you should be informed of, what's, I suppose, what's your option one way if you don't take it or if you take it. Well, HRT has changed so much over the years. Years ago, there was a scare of HRT because it caused cancer. It was obviously, where it came from.
Yes.
And now is way different. Now there are so many it's bioidentical, so you can get bioidentical hormones, and women that are struggling with perimenopause sometimes will find huge relief with HRT.
We had a super lady, Georgina Goulding, many of you will remember there back in January, perhaps, or maybe in December, gosh, time's flying. And she would have been very much against HRT for so long, and then discovered her root brought her right back to it in the end, and actually she gave a wonderful talk about the benefits of it, because people can be quite nervous, or they still remember. As she said, one of the things that they're still battling is that the old, what would we say, the old notions, advertising, talk about HRT has not been changed yet. The HRT tablets or medicine has changed completely in the last number of years. So good to hear you talk about that too. It's great to be informed, or to at least be able to make a choice.
Yes.
Yeah.
An informed choice. It's all about informed choice with anything, with any medication, and the informed part is missing for all age groups, especially women. It's just we're not informed. Women are not informed of what's happening in their with their hormones in perimenopause. Well, never mind even when they're younger age, and when they complain about painful periods, you know, they're either not listened to when they say, "Oh, it's fine, it's normal," or they're just being straight on the pill. Okay, the pill will stop everything for you. Stay on it until you give birth. But no, that's not the answer. Why is she having these pains? Could be endometriosis, could be PCOS, could be anything. And diet alone can do so much for them. So
that's really interesting. And if I'm not interrupting you, if I am, please tell
no,
me.
you're not.
Because that question has come up. We've got a couple of questions here. Do you mind if we just go to them? You don't have to,
Yes.
you can answer them as they come into your natural flow if you like, or you can answer them directly. And Trina Hannon, who she also mentioned the flotation tank as well. Trina is a holistic therapist practitioner, and she's wonderful understanding of all kinds of great therapies. Many of the members have met her a few times here, and Trina is saying, my thing is running. Okay, would you treat polycystic ovaries, PCOS? This is wonderful work you are doing.
Thank you. I do indeed. That's what I see most of, both of them, PCOS and endometriosis. Yeah.
Okay, and then after that, Trina says, flotation tank treatment help and rest and unwind, and you agreed, and then she said qigong is nice too. Okay, that's really
yes.
And Gail is asking, and this is one I know a number of people would be interested in, is does endometriosis respond to your treatments?
Yes. Nutrition, yes, it does. Well, I would like to talk about endometriosis just a little bit before we move on. But so endometriosis is a very, very undiagnosed condition. Still is, unfortunately. And it's a hormonal condition, but it's it has a huge part of the immune system that comes to play. So estrogen makes the tissue grow. So it's tissue that grows outside the endometrium. You could have endometriosis tissues in your lungs, in your colon, in your belly button. I have a young lady now that has it in her belly button. So it can grow anywhere. And the immune part of it is it can actually create a lot of imbalances in the immune system. So a lot of women that would have endometriosis would have a lot of histamine problems. Like they would, sometimes they would have skin problems as well, like itchy skin, or they would have psoriasis, sometimes eczema, as children. But they would have a lot of immune issues. It's like an autoimmune. It's seen more like an autoimmune hormonal condition. So I would treat the immune system, especially balance the immune system, because if you're calm in the immune system, you're calm in the endometriosis flare-ups as well. But the actual tissue growth is estrogen, yes. Not only, but it's estrogen. So you're calming, obviously, the estrogen as well. You're trying to balance the estrogen and progesterone. But yes, endometriosis is very interesting because some women would get their operation in their late 40s when they are completely, their bowels. I've seen some women with a complete blocked bowel. And that is too late to diagnose endometriosis. That is too late. So
a lot of pain.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Well, can we ask, is there food? Is there you said you treat the autoimmune condition. So does that include things like food and nutrition and other ways?
Yeah, so for endometriosis, you're looking at the triggers. So what is triggering and what is triggering the immune reactions? Yeah, so like gluten would be, unfortunately, a food that often triggers immunoglobulins and it triggers a reaction or flare-up. I call it a flare-up. But there are also some supplements. In this case, you have to use therapeutic supplements that are actually able to reduce the tissue. And reduce the scarring as well. There's a lot of scarring. Now, some women will need the operation. Some women will need the incision surgery, which is, there's not even, I think there's only one surgeon I know in Belfast, and one I was told in the Coombe, but not really specifically on incision surgery, which is the best surgery for endometriosis, because it's one surgery, and then all these 3-4 surgeries drive me mad because you create more adhesions and you create more tissue tightening around the organs. So one operation, but sometimes is needed. Not all the time, depending on how severe the endometriosis is. I've seen huge improvements alone if it's caught on time.
Okay.
But yes, food can help, and it's all about finding the triggers, but supporting the immune system. So make sure the immune system is not calm, but is well balanced, I suppose. It's not overreacting.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I imagine, you know, the examples you gave of calming the vagus nerve is part of that too. Okay.
Huge, yeah.
Is it okay to go to some more questions, or?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So Trina is asking, she's loving the talk, and she's saying, do you work with people who are trying to become pregnant?
No, not fertility. I used to, and that it's not my area. Well, I've ended up working with some women anyway because they came to me for other reasons and then they wanted to get pregnant. That's different, but not specifically. But I do have some good referrals if anybody's looking for fertility. Yeah.
Thank you for that. And then another question here is progesterone cream important for over 70 age?
It depends on what is used for. So, and the reason of why you're using the progesterone. So it's mainly, if it's for dryness, you're using the estrogen mainly. So progesterone is usually better at tablet form. They usually give a tablet form. The recommended dose is 200 milligrams for as a standard dose if there is a uterus. But the GP will go through all of that. That's very technical information. Okay. Yeah.
Well, that's good. So look, and so anybody who's wondering about that, there's a good question to go to your GP with, because very often the way we're most empowered is by asking that direct question from those who know. Because once you know the answer, you're much better. Again, we're getting back to better informed. And thank you for your question. Teresa's saying fabulous thought, so explanatory, and thank you, Virginia. And Finnegan is saying, this is so interesting. Thank you so much. This is lovely. And Trina Hannah says, love your website. You're so well-rounded. And actually, I just want to say that. And we had Barbara McAteer recently. You met Barbara. We all met at the wonderful Elaine Dowling. Many of you know from facefit.ie. Your website is fabulous. So is Barbara's. Absolutely wonderful. I looked at it today. So do go and look it up. Can we pop it into the chat box? Is it Virginia's Health Corner, isn't it?
Virginia's Health Corner.ie. Yes. Virginia's Health Corner. Yeah.
So it's VIRGINIAS.
Yes, Health Corner. I can write it down for you if you want.
I think I have it there now. Virginia's healthcorner.ie. You'll get it. And Virginia Ziulu. So, and how do you pronounce your surname?
Ziulu, yes.
Ziulu, yeah. Name. Okay, so Virginia Ziulu is the name. So now you know what to look up. It's wonderfully informative. There's super recipes in there too for anyone looking for some fresh ideas of really good food. So it's a full, generous kind of website with lots of ideas for you to get started. Anyone who wants to just get started in that. Thank you for your question. And Sandra, thank you. What foods or recipes to make, please? Well, Sandra, as we say, go straight to Virginia's website now and have a look at some of the ideas that you have there as well.
For menopause though, it's important to mention what are the good foods for menopause. Yes, absolutely. So flaxseed is probably the one you've heard a lot of for menopause, because what you're trying to get is your phytoestrogens for menopause, which is the weaker, is the plant-based source of estrogen. They're obviously much weaker than natural estrogen, but they do help to support the production of estrogen in the body. So like your soya, I like fermented soya. I don't like processed soya. So it has to be a really good quality tofu in a stir fry, or toss them with a bit of soya sauce, or there's so many recipes with tofu. But good quality tofu, or tempeh is another one. Tempeh. Now you have to experiment with some of the recipes. And then chickpeas. Chickpeas are actually a source of phytoestrogen, and your hummus, your chickpea curries, and then your flax seeds. So flax seeds, and they're called lignans anyway. So you're trying to get lignans. Yeah, there's actually a very nice blend in the market called Meno Ligna. I don't know if you know the brand Linwood. it's not an advertisement. I'm not linked with them, but they've actually come out with Menoligna, which is a powdered, it's a powder like seeds, and there's quinoa, there's flax seeds that you add to your porridge or to overnight oats, but it's a really good blend targeted for menopause. So it has all those lovely phytoestrogen. So that's what you're looking for menopause. So get all of those into your porridge, overnight oats, your soups. They can be easily added, or use the actual beans and pulses. The chickpeas are the highest in phytoestrogen. So, but that's food wise. The how to get those plant-based estrogens, and then you're looking at how you're metabolizing your own. So that's your fiber. So flax seeds will also have good fiber. So that is your prebiotics to feed those bacteria in your gut. So your gut health is everything. So if your gut isn't functioning well, you're not going to be able to make these, even to synthesize these estrogens, because they're made,
So they're not being broken down. You're not getting the nutritional benefit of them. So, so it starts with the gut health. Okay.
That's with the gut,
and can I just throw in there, because again, it's a question just I'm curious about. So gut health really is affected by, again, we get back to it, anxiety and stress and all of those sort of things. So again, we get back to the vital importance of those self-care acts of reducing, calming, and lowering your stress levels as much as you possibly can.
Absolutely. There are also other factors that can affect the gut. So long-term use of antibiotics or medication, any medication would affect the gut, or contraceptive pill can also affect gut health, or exposure as children of antibiotics when the gut was still developing. There's so many things that affect gut health. But the good thing is, once you implement the probiotics from food, I like to use kefir for that reason. I'm not mad on commercial probiotics. If I use probiotics, I only use specific strains that I know exactly what I need. I don't use these generalized probiotics, because every person, every woman will need specific ones. To me, they're too broad, and it's a huge market as well. So, but anyway, I would use them therapeutically, but I find kefir is the best one, because kefir has so many strains, and you're getting them through food as well. So kefir is my favorite, and you can get that to make your own. And I'm a big fan of, I send my little grains to all my clients to make their own kefir. And I grow my own in my kitchen worktop.
So we can grow our own kefir, can we?
Yeah, you need the little grains, which they look like grains, but obviously it's a combination of yeast, bacteria, and fungi. It's all in those little grains. And then you add your milk and you keep growing. Yeah.
Oh, listen, everybody, there's an exercise now. This is a new moon tonight. And it's also the equinox, as you know. We're all supposed to be growing things now and getting started. That's a wonderful idea. Okay, grow our own kefir. That's the first thing I'm going to consider now tomorrow morning.
I might not have enough kefir for all of you.
No, I didn't mean that. We can go and look. I take it we can look it up or send away for it or something elsewhere.
No, what I will do is, there's loads of Facebook groups that give it for free, because kefir, and there's a beautiful history around kefir, and in the Asian countries over there, because it was sacred. It's sacred. There's a history, like, you're not meant to sell it. I don't sell it. I gift. Yes, I gifted to my client, and it's small. You only need a teaspoon, but it was meant to be the gift of health, I suppose, because it's so powerful. If you make the homemade version, it's very powerful. Yeah. So I can share. There's a Facebook group where everybody shares the free grains, and you just need to put your name and address, and they'll send it to you. So I can share that. I'll make a note.
That's such okay, you'll have the whole lot of us doing that now.
But I love kefir, and I have it all on my Instagram. I have a little video on how to make it as well.
Instagram, guys. So we're going to look up Virginia.
Instagram.
Are you Virginia's Health Corner on Instagram?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
so just make a note of that, everybody. Virginia's Health Corner on Instagram.
So kefir grains, I'll take a note for you. So I'll be able to send you the link and then you can share it
I'll
with
send
your
it in the email.
group.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Yes, I
just
think there was one
yeah.
question. Yes.
Trina is asking, would you recommend psyllium husk or seeds or triphala for constipation?
Psyllium husk is amazing, but hard to take alone in a powder form. It's not, it's kind of, it becomes like a jelly. It's not very pleasant. So you can get capsule form. Yes, psyllium is brilliant. Psyllium husk is really good. You need to be drinking enough water because it expands with water. So you need to be taking enough fluids when you take psyllium husk. Otherwise, it can get blocked up in the gut. But kefir, I also use kefir for constipation. So kefir can actually help with your bowel movements. Yeah.
Go back to kefir. And yeah, I mean, you know, it's one of those things that does affect people. Yeah, particularly. I think if you're not sleeping very well, I think that's another area because your whole system is slowed down so much.
But also, by menopause, estrogen. So estrogen helps the bowel back with bowel movement. So progesterone slows them down, but estrogen keeps them regular. So women are losing their estrogen through menopause, but they're also slowing down their system.
Okay.
So constipation is a common because the system is slowing down because the estrogen helps women, you know, they kind of speed up a lot of the digestion, some of the other things. But in menopause, they're slowing down.
I have a question that somebody sent me in an email. She can't make it here tonight. Lorraine, many of you will know she's regularly here, but her friend is starring in a play somewhere this evening and she has to be there. And if you don't mind, very briefly, I'll ask you what she asked. She said if there's an opportunity to ask our guest speaker, she would really like to know how to safely lower iron levels in her body. And the reason she had this, and there's something in this for all of us, she, for the first time ever, she asked for her results. Normally she would have her blood tests and then she would leave it for the doctor to let her know whether things are all right or not and to change her medication. But she asked for her results and she asked to see them. And when she got them, she realized that she had she had very high levels of iron remaining constant in her body over 3 years. And she's quite worried about that. It's now turning out that she has to have some further, they're going to look a bit further into it. And she's saying, what is the safe level? How can you safely lower iron levels?
I'm assuming this lady's menopausal.
Yes, she's postmenopausal.
Yeah. Yes. So she's not losing blood through her periods. The best way to lower iron is through her cycle. That's why we lose iron. Yeah, that's how women kind of balance their iron levels, also through menstruation. So the best way is, now first she would want to be checked for hemochromatosis, because if there is a lot of iron, obviously they test for hemochromatosis. It's a buildup of iron. The other thing is reducing the iron-rich foods and also reducing the food that enhance absorption. So vitamin C would be one. So make sure she's not eating fruits high in vitamin C when she eats iron-rich foods. Avoid red meat until she gets the iron down. So the really high iron foods she should eliminate to bring it down. But yeah, there's it's interesting when there is an accumulation in women. It's more common in men than women. But she would probably need to get that checked. But it's certainly avoid taking anything that enhance iron absorption. Vitamin C is the biggest one.
Really? Okay. Yeah. Okay. And you know, so many of us do take our vitamin C every day. On top of, well, I take a vitamin C capsule or not capsule, but a fizzy thing every morning. I hope it works.
Yes, but I mean, not all women would have a high iron, you know, they wouldn't have issue with iron. Yes. So
okay, well, that's good, and that's going to help her a lot, because she really wanted to know whether that was something she could do something about or not. Virginia, what I'm just looking at the time. You have given us so much. I've never known the time to fly. I'm sure many of you will say the same thing. It has literally flown in that hour because you were just coming with more and more information. This is what astounded me when you spoke on Elaine's webinar before Christmas. And you'll just, if you possibly can manage it at all, you just have to come back to us because it's an ongoing we can never have too much information with regard to this, and certainly too much information about informing ourselves about what we can do to support our own good health. You say it begins by going and seeking medical, if you've got questions, go and ask your questions, find out your answers, inform yourself, and then make good choices. And obviously one of them would be to get in touch with you if anybody wants to perhaps start looking at their own balancing their own nutritional needs. Do you find that, so can I just say then, unless other people are coming in with more questions, which of course we love, do you find, how are people's lives benefiting from coming to you and seeking out your particular skills?
For women, I suppose it's restoring their confidence, because a lot of women, they will struggle with anxiety and stress all their life pretty much. And when they actually understand what's happening, even just explaining to them what is happening is just very powerful. Even for them to understand what's happening in their body and why they're doing certain things. I'm not one for saying you need to do this and that's it. I'm one, okay, we're doing this because of, and then they know, right, it makes sense. And then when they start feeling better, they get more energy. They don't have those swings of energy and mood indeed during the day. They're realizing, okay, well, this is actually what I need to do then. And I always like to give the tools for long-term support. So I give them all the tools they need to be able to do this long-term without me, because the aim is they're in control. So I'm only there to help them and guide them while they're with me. But at the end of the day, they have the power. We're the best, version of ourselves. We're the only ones that are in control of everything. So we need, but it's just giving the tools to women. I just give them the tools, and without forcing or saying you have to do this. I'm not that type of practitioner, but just giving them the tools and explaining things. So why are we doing this? And then the things that come out sometimes during my sessions are quite powerful, emotionally for sure, because women start talking, because my sessions are very comprehensive. So I go back to their history. I need to know, not because I want to know their business, but I need to know how I can help them. So how I can best send,
And it's a lifestyle thing, but most people who will come to you I imagine, feel that they're a victim of whatever their issue is, whether it's an autoimmune condition or a dietary problem or their hormonals or whatever else, a hormonal issue. They feel that they are, at the mercy of these things. There's, we've grown to believe that everything is either working or not working, and then we have to suffer the consequences. What you're actually doing is helping people see what's happening, why it's happening, and giving them all of the information they need to move forward. It's a lifestyle thing, I imagine.
Yes,
not
lifestyle change.
Yes,
yeah.
I just love what you're doing, and I'd love to know more. I mean, I don't look at Instagram enough, but if you put up stuff on Instagram of you growing your food and your lovely whatever you've got, nursery or whatever it is that you grow, we're looking forward to seeing so much more about that. But you'll have to come back to us as well, because if you can spare the time, because it's absolutely delightful, so incredibly informative, and so grateful to you for giving us the benefit of your experience and your knowledge and your story as well, because so many of us can relate to how life changes and adapting and changing with the life changes, whether it's an illness such as what you've had, or growing older, or relationships change, or whatever it is, that we have to make the changes that go with that in order to support ourselves best. If anybody is not, and if Virginia's happy, we're more or less, thank you everybody. You've got lots of thank yous, Virginia, and I'm so grateful to you all for being here this evening and listening. Thank you so much for that.
You're very welcome.
So we know where we can find you. You're in Kimmage and you're in Kildare, did you say? Portlaoise? Yeah.
Yes.
And a wonderful website for people to go and look up, with lots and lots of ideas there to get you started, but certainly just see what you can find there, because there's so much there for you. Again, thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Have a great evening, everyone.
Thank you. Bye. Just before you guys go, I just want to say, because of the kind of cosmic night that's in it, our 3 cards this evening. Oh, Actually, no, the 3 cards this evening are coming from Gabby Bernstein, and she ended up in my hand quite by surprise because I was not expecting her. So there you go. You're meant to hear something from this lady. This is her super attractor deck, and she's got lots of nice things in here, but let's just pull out 3 cards. Can I just, while I'm shuffling these, remind you, if you've got crystals that you particularly love, a lovely night to cleanse your crystals and recharge them. Be careful where you put them. If it's raining outside, that might not be such a good idea. You might leave them on the window ledge on the inside, and then take them back in. So it's the end of the first quarter. We're moving into a new quarter year. And because it's spring equinox, it's a really good time to consider perhaps your intentions again. For some of us, and in the dead of winter, I can be quite low in energy, and it begins to come back in now. So it's a nice time to begin to make some new intentions and plans for manifesting what you're looking for in life. Okay, 3 cards. If you want to think about 1, 2, or 3 before we get there. Okay, first card. The universe is always conspiring to support me, guide me, and lead me compassionately towards the highest good. That is card number 1. Dorota, that one is for you. A beautiful red cardinal, actually, which is really quite a powerful, what would we say, message from the heavens. When you see a red cardinal, they see them a lot in America. I don't think we see too many of them here. The universe is always conspiring to support me, guide me, and lead me compassionately towards the highest good. And I think the likes of having Virginia here to speak with us tonight is an answer to that. The second card, those of you who chose number 2, when I merge my desire with faith, I can take action from a place of peace rather than control. Okay, if somebody needs that, when I merge my desire with faith, I can take action from a place of peace rather than from control. So when you begin to make plans, you begin to set your intentions, know that the universe is working with you, that you don't have to force or push. You move into flow, and that's a much easier way of working through it. Okay, that was card number 2. And finally, card number 3, manifesting is the creative process of aligning with the energy of the universe to co-create an experience that elevates my spirit and the spirit of the world. Okay, that one's a bit of a tongue twister. I'm going to go back over it. Manifesting is the creative process of aligning with the energy of the universe to co-create an experience that elevates my spirit and the spirit of the world. Look, if you pick number 3, raise your vibrational level, think of good things, find the goods, practice your gratitude, be in nature, and know that what it is that you want to manifest or create or bring about, that the universe is working with you and is in alignment with you. Okay, that was a tongue twister. Sorry about that, but that's just the way these things turn up. Okay, so lovely to see you all. Looking forward to seeing you next time in a fortnight. We have a lovely guest. Many of you wanted to find out more about what she mentioned on a previous Tuesday night club, and I've asked her to come back. So I'll tell you much more about that before that. So when's that? It'll be April, and the curtains will be open here because the hour goes forward next weekend, and we should still have light round about 8 o'clock. So I'm looking forward to that. So everybody take good care of yourselves. Go bring out the message, as I said to you earlier. This is a lovely group here, and we want to continue and grow, and we want to share all of the wonderful ideas and possibilities and positivity that comes from here. Virginia, thank you so much again. And ladies, thank you for your questions and for everything else. Ruth has sent a heart. How lovely. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Good night. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Take care.